seems it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rulers that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed softly. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight on Middle Path, we are joined by someone who knows intimately the weaving and wandering one may walk on the path from dark to light, from inward to outward, from bottom to top, and from peak to trough. Just to find the sweet spot right in the middle, perfectly balanced. She is my virtual clone, or I'm hers. She is the mother of geniuses, the artistic creator, the self-mastery master, the captain of her own ship, and the energy healer and host of Consciousness on Tap, Lindsay Foreman. Welcome to Middle Path. It's so good to have you here tonight.
That is like such a fantastic introduction. Thank you so much.
You deserve it.
You're so poetic. It's really great. I love it. I like captain of your own ship.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that too. But before we jump into it, I want to remind anyone listening that tomorrow is the night that we're doing a meetup. It's Interverse, Rogueways. Who else? Oh, Dan, Cosmic Keys. We're all going to be there, the hosts of all those shows. So me, Chance, and Dan are all going to be there. And anybody in Colorado who is into any of our shows, come and meet up with us. We're going to be there at 6 p.m. at Castle Rock at Burley Brewing. And so we hope to see all of you guys there. High five, hug, whatever. Mask free. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be awesome. Dan's band is actually playing there. It's going to be a really fun time. So 6 p.m. is when we plan to show up and hang out for at least a few hours. So we hope to see all you guys there. And the summer one day of brightness is right around the corner. This is the end of May, basically, this weekend. And then June starts, and June 19th is the one day of brightness event, where we're going to have master practitioners and teachers present to us, teach us skills, bring us deeper within our heart and soul, clear some energetic madness, give us an energetic boost, all kinds of good stuff. We come away with new skills, new understandings, and a deeper connection with ourselves. And that is on the 19th. Like I said, if you buy a ticket, you get to come all day long. Even if you can't stay there the whole time, it's recorded, so you can catch up with anything you may have missed. We always do giveaways. It's really, really cool. Everyone who comes consistently says it was better than they expected, and they got more out of it than they expected. So you could never overestimate how much fun you'll have and how much goodness you'll get and just how healing and rejuvenating it'll be. So come to the one day of brightness, especially if you haven't been before, and check it out. And finally, I always want to tell people my new book, All Endings Are Beginnings is the book, and you can grab it on Amazon, of course, but you can also grab it from my site, where I will personally inscribe it and send it to you. It is cheaper than buying it on Amazon, of course, and the tax is non-existent, and the shipping is free. So come grab it straight from me is the best way to do it. And finally, let's get back to Lindsay. Lindsay, you and I met, I guess, on the Idiocalypse live stream that we did, Idiocalypse, which is no more. And we did our...
Yeah, we broke it.
Yeah, we did.
I feel like we totally broke that fucking episode. Like, the whole show, like, broke up, like, the day after we all came together, you know?
Oh, man.
Like that.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird, but...
And I guess
I could feel it happening anyways. I was like, oh, this is a weird show.
I think it's the triple Lindsay convergence, because there was another Lindsay on that episode, too. And it's, yeah. So
it just
you can't have three Lindsays in one place at one time.
It.
Right.
Right. We're the destroyer of worlds. That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
But also the creation of worlds. Like, don't forget that.
That's the middle path. We got the creation and the destruction balanced out.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we met, and I think I had heard of you before that, but that was actually the first time that I saw, you know, a face to go with the voice, and so that was really cool. I didn't really get to connect with you too much on that show, but I am glad that, like, later on we sort of did, and I feel like you said, you know, there's a lot of parallel synchronicities that when I met you or wanted to reach out, I didn't want to geek out and like be some sort of like stalker, like, we're the exact same, it's so weird. But, you know, just in hearing some of the things that you talk about on some of the shows that I've heard you on, it was just like, it's pretty fucking weird.
It's pretty weird.
It is pretty weird. I'm like, oh, And her
Well,
name's Lindsay.
and you're living this life that I'm like super jealous of, where you have moved into a boat, and I would love to share that with people. And I'll just mention too, before you can maybe tell us a little bit about that, that if people haven't heard, I was on your episode of on Consciousness on Tap on your show recently too, and that was where we really got to know each other better. So if anybody wants to go check that out, that and more from Consciousness on Tap on Rockfin, the link is below. But yeah, tell us about the ship.
The ship. Yeah, so I feel like I've been sort of preparing myself to live on a boat and be, I've always been pretty minimalistic. Like, I think I've moved 5 or 6 times in the last 3 years. And prior to that, like, I've just always kind of like upheaved everything, burned everything down, and moved on. And so I'm not opposed to, I guess, like, um living non-traditionally. I think a lot of that was like I tried to live traditionally and I just find it very boring and really hard to do day to day. So yeah, my boyfriend and I, you know, huge long story. He ended up selling his house. I was living in an RV with my daughter and my dog all winter long, like on the back loop road, wailing through like 6 feet of snow all winter. And we just got into this position where we sort of had this idea of wanting to buy a boat and live on it, but it hadn't really come into like fruition yet. And I knew that like obviously there was big things that we needed to accomplish, like him buying this house or selling his house as being this huge anchor. Once that was sold, like things manifested in our life so quickly. Like we manifested this month-long trip to take our kids to kind of go to Mexico to get away from everything that had been going on. And we were like, okay, cool. Well, when we get back from Mexico, we'll look at all these boats because he looks at boat porn like constantly all winter long. And I was like, well, we'll go like actually look at a boat physically and check some of these boats out. And us being us, we did it like a week before we went on a trip to Mexico for a month and ended up like buying it right away. We're like, oh, we love the ship. And it's a 1958 old Forest Service boat called the Sitka Ranger. It actually has its own Facebook page that the prior owners had made because it's got a lot of history. It's probably could be like documented as a historical boat. And then all of these people around Southeast, everywhere we go, Alaska, sort of have a story to share about this boat because it was in service that actually went out to like rescue all these other boats for so long. So
That's so cool.
it's pretty cool. And like it was the first boat we looked at, and you know, we both had our game faces on like while we were looking at it and checking it out. And it's definitely not like a pleasure boat live aboard for, you know, a dog, a couple, and 3 children. It's very like compartmentalized and hasn't really been updated, but I don't know, there's something about it. And we both got off the boat and walked away from shaking hands from the owner, and we're just like, oh my God, we love this boat. Like we both, it was pretty unanimous that there's just something about it. And so we just, yeah, went for it, and then went to Mexico for a month, got back during a snowstorm, came and checked out the boat, and I was like, made a huge mistake. Like,
Why did I do
thinking
this?
about this is the worst thing ever. Because I was ready to come back from Mexico, pack up my, you know, like 3 items that I actually own, and just go back and not ever come back to Alaska. But you know, I've slowly sort of the depression of coming back to Alaska have sort of worn off, and it's lightened up a little bit. So yeah, it's been fun, and now we're making it, you know, doing painting and renovation and kind of making it our own, and so that's been interesting.
And is it, forgive me if
All
this
very
is like a
interesting.
ridiculous question, but so we did the show, we've done a reading together, and now we're doing this, and I've never seen anything move. Are you not in the water?
We're in the water. It's a steel ship, so it's like
It's like heavy.
like it's a heavy boat, and we've been through some windstorms here, and all the other boats around us are just like totally rocking. We're just
Wow.
like this is a solid boat.
That's rad.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
even
it's like we bought a tank, a floating tank,
Jeff
literally.
Jeff
Yes.
Adams in the chat said yes, it is a famous boat. So there's people who've even heard of it, you know, before this.
Oh,
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I've got some of the documentation, and eventually I think like when we're done and can take a breath from what we're doing all the time, because we're also like just got done homeschooling 3 children who live here like most of the time. And I would really like to do some research, because there has been some I think there was even like the captain of this boat did an interview on NPR about some famous storm that he was caught in. And I think there's been some Lassie episodes filmed on the Sitka Ranger. So I don't know. Yeah, if anybody wants to reach out and share information about my house that I don't know about, please like let me know. I'd love to hear about it. And eventually I'd like to pick up where they left off, and start documenting, gathering, and do a timeline and see. But it's a really great boat. It just hasn't had a lot of interior love, and so it's kind of nice because it's like got all this cherry wood all around, and I just can't wait to
Beautiful.
start. Yeah, but I just really want to go in and like really start working on it.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time, but it's going to be fun, like doing the transforming. And every time I paint, I'm like, do a video before, like take some pictures before, just to make sure, because
Documenting.
yeah, I'm not really good at that. So I'm verbally reminding myself to do that before I do any like upkeep or changing. So
I really am bad at before and after. We're like transforming our whole yard, and I'm just like, why do I keep forgetting to take these before pictures? Well, whatever.
just get it done.
Yeah, we just need to do this. Like, I have very little
I just want to
time.
work. I don't want to have to video and work,
Yes.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, that's me.
Fun random story. When I was in 5th grade, I sent a letter into a science magazine, and I asked them, if boats are made of steel, why don't they sink? Because when I put steel in the water, it sinks. And so they published it, and they answered my question. They're like, oh, actually, the balance of the air and whatever. And the weird thing, though, is in that exact same science magazine, that same exact issue, there were 2 other Lindsay Browns that also had either a drawing or a question or something else submitted. And I was like, what is this world? Like, it blew my little 4th or 5th grade, whatever it was, mind. I was like, there are other Lindsay Browns? Like, so that's my history with
That's
steel
awesome.
boats.
And actually really bizarre, It's
So
maybe
random.
it's something about your name that draws all the other like weirdo Lindsays out of the woodwork. That's what it is.
I want to give a shout out to both Johnny and Bonnie in the chat. Rhyming names, both have tipped so far. I really appreciate the tips. Thank you so much, guys. And I also want to tell the YouTube listeners and the Facebook listeners that we are going to switch to Rockfin only in a moment, right before we do this practice that we're about to do. On the middle path, we like to bring it to this practical, spiritual in all of us, and just do some quick sort of visualizations, meditations, or whatever. And Lindsay is an energy worker and a healer of all kinds, and she is going to lead us in a short little practice in a moment. And so if you're down with that, or if you're not, come over to Rockfin and join us. We're also going to get into, I'm sure, trauma, demonic entity attachment, experiences of this nature, and the type of healing work and energy work and spiritual work that Lindsay does, and how she got to that, and all of those fun things. So that is coming up. And why don't you give us just a little hint, at least, before we get into the nitty gritty of just the type of work you do with people?
Okay,
Before we cut off the other watchers who haven't yet come over to Rockfin. Which everyone can do. It's free. Come over.
Come over.
Sorry.
Come over. Yeah, so really what I work with is primarily is like trauma work with people, and getting them to a place where they're able to have more sacred space, and like a baseline or a foundation for them to start looking at different aspects maybe of how what they've gone through might be something that is going to bring them a deeper understanding of how to have compassion and love, not only for themselves, but I think for then the people in their circle, and then going beyond that and just being able to have a deeper understanding about how we're all interconnected, and that we have this ability inside of ourselves to tap into the light source or divine Christ consciousness, higher levels of consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Even if it's just you showing up for yourself and being able to go in and transform and be able to, in a lot of ways, kind of break through being a victim of what we went through and seeing it as more of like these allies that we've created, even if it's like addiction or hatred or whatever it is that
Yeah.
we're really going through. And I do that on a number of different ways depending on the individual person. But, in my, bag of tricks that I use usually is working with the Akashic records with doing what's called spiritual response therapy. So it's like using pendulum work to go into charts and clearing out programs and belief systems. And then I do a lot of work with sound. I do teach people like toning and mantra work. And then I have like a sound wave bed so people can actually get sound treatments.
Cool.
And I do a lot of talking about, like raising your vibration and frequency visualization. And so and then I also do, I'd say, a lot of like, for lack of a better term, like spiritual counseling, which really I think that I really see everything as being a spiritual aspect because we're spiritual beings. So I don't necessarily mean like I sit down and like, tell me what tell me what that means. Tell me what you think it means. It's not very traditional. It's very like individual. And so it's really letting the person lead. And then sometimes maybe some things that they bring up repeatedly, I just kind of point out how maybe those are doorways to go in and explore things that they might not have looked at, or different perspectives and understanding that maybe the frequency that they're resonating on is what's attracting what they don't want into their lives, or being able to tap into frequencies where they're bringing in more of what they want, and so what they don't isn't the forefront on their mind all the time. They're thus like not focusing on like what they don't want and creating more of it.
Yeah.
So I guess I just use energy, frequency, sound, spirit, and
Intuition.
a lot of intuition. I think that I don't necessarily go into a session with somebody being like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. I usually go in and I pray and I meditate and I tap into my own source and feel the light within myself. And then I go from there, and I really try to be more of a neutral, like a facilitator for somebody to understand that they can create their own change in their life. Because
See,
obviously that's like where the power is.
yeah. This is
And
another aspect of how similar we are, I think, because we use totally different modalities, but we have the exact same intention and like way of kind of going about it, despite that we're using
yeah,
completely different modalities. We have the same, unleashing people to really do this for themselves. And I always say, like, my greatest hope for any of my, I hate calling people clients, but I don't have a better
right. I
word.
know.
My clients, though, is
It's my client. It's
yeah,
like my pet.
just
I
sounds
just
like
put it in my
so
pocket. It's my file
disconnected.
folder.
Yeah, but whatever we can, I'm gonna need to come up with a better word for that. But
You could
the
say my
people,
homie, and I think they might like that.
my homies, yeah. I just try my whole goal is like you should never need me again at some point. You should be so like empowered and healed that not only should you never need me again, but you shouldn't go and do that now for other people or not if you don't want to. But you know what I mean? Like that's the goal. The goal is not to like keep doing this over and over again. But
Right. You
I
don't need to see me for 20 years and then still be talking about the same exact issue,
yeah, hopefully it works
and
and you
resonating on
grow.
the same trauma.
Right.
Yeah. Hopefully something like has transcended and transformed within yourself, because when that happens and nobody gives it to you but you tap into it, whether you go back to it, how it manifests in your life, it's undeniable that it happened.
Yeah.
And I feel like regardless, there's always gonna, if you're not living your truth, there's always gonna be like this like tap, like, hello,
Yeah.
whether you ignore it or not, that's up to you. But to me, it's like gives you that opportunity to begin the new language, to one, speak, and two, to learn how to listen. And I think that it's something that we all can do. Doesn't mean that we're all going to do it, and myself included. I've had many a times in my life where I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm going to do something else
I'm gonna
instead.
do like this instead. Yeah. And then life's like, all right, dude, figure it
Like
out.
maybe I want to be bad for a while. Maybe
Yeah.
that's my spiritual path, is just to be like, fuck off.
Right.
I mean, it's just, but I always have a hard time. At times I always want to explain to people, I never want to tell people like, oh, well, you chose to go through the trauma, stop being a victim. I don't mean it like that, but that's kind of where I was at. I understand that it's very easy when you're traumatized to become a victim to that trauma.
Yeah.
And if someone tells you in a way that you're not ready to hear, it can just be like, boom, like,
well, you're attacking me now too.
yeah, you're attacking me, so fuck off. You obviously don't understand trauma if you think it's like that easy. And
Right.
it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy all the time.
I find myself
you know?
saying that so often lately, like in the past year. I'm like, it's very, very simple, and it's also hard. But
Yeah, it's really hard.
but let's get back into some of that after we do a little practice, and I'm going to say goodbye to the YouTube and Facebook people. Love you so much. Want you to come to Rockfin. This is a Rockfin only show, actually, and that was just our little intro. And so please do hop over, and now you can subscribe for free to both Middle Path and Rogue Ways on Rockfin, and also Consciousness on Tap, which is Lindsay's show on Rockfin as well. So if you want to bump it up a little and become an actual supporter, you get access to both of our exclusive content and anyone else on Rockfin. So you get all of it at once. So hop over to Rockfin where things are rad. I'll put it in the chat one more time. And I hope to see you guys there. Love you much. Turning it off. Bye-bye.